So there we are. We are live. So nice to have you here with me, Debbie. Thank you so much for taking the time to explain what it is that you do. I'm really excited to share this one because I wouldn't say it was something that people were going to be knowing about. I think this is going to be a real eye-opener for a lot of people. So if there is anybody that joins us while we're doing this live, please ask questions if you've got any. But if you obviously catch up with us after on the replay, if you have any questions, then you've got Debbie at Soul Balance Holistics. I will flash this up again at the end, but this is her website. So take a picture of it, screenshot it, whatever you need to do. But that's where you'll go and find her if you need to ask questions, or ask me and I'll pass them along. It's not a problem. So I think the first thing that we should start, Debbie, is you tell everybody about you and what you do.
Okay, so I work with holistic therapies. I work with energy treatments that I do remotely. I work with a modality called pranic healing that I now have just come to learn over the past 6-7 years. I started with crystal therapy 20 years ago and then moved on through different trainings, Reiki, kinesiology, sports massage. And when I found the pranic healing and how it worked, that was it. I was all in. And I realized that actually all the bits that I'd learned through the other treatments and the other healing modalities actually all worked and made me understand how energy worked a lot more. So I worked to clear any emotional pain or physical pain that our bodies are holding that are preventing us from moving forward.
It still blows my mind, but I think this is such a close thing to my heart, because what you're essentially saying is that we all have this kind of energy flowing in our bodies, and then at times it can get stuck from whatever's happened in the past, and it then starts to affect us physically. And it's I suppose it's close to my heart because we've just adopted a couple of little girls, and we've been with us now for about 10 months. And I remember a book I was reading right at the start before they came to us. It was The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes.
Was it Body? Yeah, Body Keeps the Score. I think I've even got it on my shelf somewhere. What does that say? Bessel van der Kolk or something like that. Anyway, I'll put it in the show notes afterwards. But and it blew my mind how trauma. I mean, in his case, he was talking about war veterans and the trauma that they went through, but how that would just live itself over and over again in the body. It doesn't matter how much talking therapy you had, it just would not shift. And now that's led on to other modalities to kind of help people process all of that energy. But that's essentially what you're looking at, isn't it? It's looking at the stuff that we hold on to that we don't physically realize until we start getting ill, right?
Yes, that is exactly it. Yeah, basically the emotions, when we go through events of our past, the event isn't the actual trauma. The trauma is actually how the body responds and then what goes on within the body.
Yeah.
Okay, so from events that we've all lived through, emotions are created. So those emotions are then connected to the past. They're connected to that event. If we haven't been able to fully assimilate them and move through them and clear them, they essentially get stuck. They get stuck in our body, and that constant cycle of actually reliving and going over those emotions. And then if anything else triggers those sorts of emotions in the future, it could be something totally different. It could be another event, or it could just be remembering. Do you know what I mean? That then brings those emotions back up again. And they start to literally block up the energy system that our body is made of. And then eventually, if they're not cleared, they can become a physical ailment. Do you know what I mean? Which then we have to deal with the physical pain, and the emotional pain gets forgotten because people don't give emotions enough credit. It was discovered a long time ago that actually stress, creates physical illnesses, physical ailments, headaches, stomach aches in children. If they're going through something really difficult, it will come out in a physical ailment. And actually, adults, where it's more deep-seated, they can be more extreme.
Yeah.
And it's harder for them to be cleared. But people don't think that once they've got the physical, the ailment, that it's anything to do with emotions, because you can't see, touch, or anything with emotions. But with physical pain, people are more likely to go, yeah, my back hurts, or my hip hurts, or my neck hurts, rather than I'm feeling really sad, or I'm feeling really stressed, or I'm feeling really anxious. It's best storing it, keeping it deep, and almost forgetting about it until it becomes a physical thing.
And then as doctors, I mean, we will then treat the thing on the surface, the back pain or whatever, physiotherapy, whatever it is somebody needs, but it's not necessarily going to completely get rid of it. It's not going deep enough, is it? And
no.
And I suppose I see a lot of women as well who feel like they've been dismissed by their practitioner. They feel like they're told, oh, it's all in your head. It's all, you're too anxious. That's not what we're talking about. We're not saying to somebody, oh, it's all, it literally is your mind doing it to you. Your pelvic pain doesn't exist. It does exist. It's just,
it does.
You've got to address the root, haven't you, of it as well. As physical ailment. So, I mean, I would say to somebody, always make sure that you get yourself checked over, that you're not missing anything serious. But I think if you've been through all the checks, you've gone through everything, fibromyalgia, for example, springs to mind. Everybody's had all the checks done, nothing can be found, and this person's still living with chronic pain. Well, okay, so then we go to, well, maybe it's fibromyalgia. And then what do you do with that? How do you work through that, right? So I guess that leads me on to my next question, which is, how does this practice of yours help women in that situation?
So fibromyalgia, the underlying emotional cause of that is stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
So by working with the stress and anxiety, it then brings the body out of that fight or flight, that tension, the muscles literally kind of like, and that is what fibromyalgia can be. They go through periods of stress and periods of anxiety. The body, it's then seen as a fibro flare up. But kind of stepping back and looking at it all, you can then clear the stress and anxiety, and then the physical pain as well, allowing the body to heal itself. I don't heal people, their bodies heal themselves. But what I do speeds up that healing process for them. So many people get misdiagnosed. I was working with a client who was told for 3 years by doctors, without actually being fully diagnosed, that she had endometriosis. And she was like, okay, and everyone she went to see, because all her pain was around her stomach, chronic pain, 15 out of 10. She couldn't move, she couldn't talk because she was breathing through the pain. She finally went and saw a doctor and a consultant, and they said, actually, let's do a laparoscopy. And when the results come back, there was no sign of endometriosis, no sign whatsoever. Now, I'd been treating her for endometriosis, and it had been clearing about 80% of the pain, but I was like, there's something else going on here. He then made not an off-the-cuff remark, but just a passing remark that it is definitely systemic, but it could be something like fibromyalgia or something. We need to send you more tests, refer you to the pain clinic. And they got in contact with me, and I said, right, okay. So that night she had a massive flare up of this, whatever this was. And I said, right, we're going to do a fibro treatment. And we did a fibro treatment, and literally, basically, even just before the end of the treatment, she was like, I can sit up, I can talk. The pain's literally dissipated. So because the symptoms are very similar in certain areas of the body, because it was all around her uterus and everything like that, it was automatic. This is what it is, with no further tests, until that one consultant said, right, let's do this.
Yeah, and it's so, it can be so powerful, I think, to allow the body to do its own thing, because the body knows what it's doing. It does know what it's doing. I think we don't give it enough credit. And actually, you're right. If you give it space to do it, and obviously you have to have a certain element of the patient's got to buy into it, right? The patient's got to be on board with this sort of stuff. They probably wouldn't be coming to find you if they weren't. But
no,
if you've got someone that's skeptical and like, oh, this will never work for me, then okay, fine. You're setting
it's people can, energy work can work for people. It can work for anyone. You just got to be open-minded to want to try it. Do you know what I mean? Because we're working with the same conditions, but we're just coming from two different angles to work together.
Yes,
which will then help clear it for that person to move on.
Yeah,
and as you said, women always get kind of like, oh well, it's just your imagination, or it can't be that bad, or things like that. And that is the greatest pity about women, when they have to go to a doctor and they aren't listened to.
No, exactly. It's really frustrating, but I think it can help in so many areas, can't it? I mean, I definitely think it would be useful in things like perimenopause, because often in perimenopause, a lot of like the masking comes off. The I don't even know how to describe it properly, but I think as women, we take a lot in, and we hold a lot in, and we look after everybody, and then that estrogen starts to come away, and all of a sudden it's I don't actually care about this anymore. I don't. Who am I? What am I doing? And there's a lot of old kind of ideas about what it is to be a teenager that come up, and like our identity stuff all comes up. And actually, this is probably a good time as well to use this kind of healing, because it can also help you to heal that stuff that you perhaps have been forcing down a lot all the years. So it's a really transformative time of life. I think that's how I like to think of it, rather than a loss.
Women are they take on so much. You know, women have been programmed over millennia to just, they're caretakers. They look after everyone. You know, they look after the kids, they look after the house, they look after the finances, they look after the animals. You know, that is what we're it's almost like innately, naturally able to do, because that's how we've been raised. And it's just inbuilt in us. But actually, unfortunately, because of that, we come to the bottom of the stack. We're the ones at the bottom of the stack. And I heard something quite a while ago, when there was like, when you're on an aeroplane and those masks drop, who do you put it on first? And everyone's like, that's the kids. Got to keep the kids safe. But actually, who's going to look after the kids if you don't put your mask on first?
Yeah.
And it's about looking after yourself and putting yourself first to keep your health going, so that you can care and you can do these things for other people. We've just got to step into that. It's not selfish to put ourselves first and to look after ourselves and our emotions.
Yeah.
Because women's emotions are a lot more powerful, and they're a lot more pushed down because we don't put ourselves first.
No, and it's also not polite to lose it as a woman, is it? It's not seen as the dumb thing to get angry or get upset or whatever. So it all feeds into it. But I think it can be really useful. I mean, as you've mentioned, fibro and pelvic pain, and obviously things like perimenopause, it's all very, very useful stuff. Are there any other examples where you've used it specifically for a woman experiencing a problem?
So I had a client come to me who was not told she had PCOS. It was basically put on her medical record in 2021. I think it was early 2021. And she had told me that she had gone through her periods, and it had been so painful, so chronic, that actually her mum had to actually go and pick her up from school because she was in chronic pain. But they were like, oh, it's just period pains. You'll be fine. You'll grow out of it. It'll ease off. Just take some paracetamol and ibuprofen. You'll be fine. And she went for tests. And she in late 22, she went into her medical record. It wasn't any necessity. She was just curious. She was going through her NHS record, and she saw that they put on there she had PCOS. Well, initially she didn't even know what it was, so she had to look it up. And And she came to me and said, is this why I'm in so much pain? And I was like, look, I'm not medically trained, but yeah, probably. And then she did some research, and she went and saw a nurse who was a friend of hers, and they said, this is all connected to your periods and the pain and everything like this. So she started working with me, and she had to go back for a checkup for something. She was getting some pain, must have been at the middle of last year, and she went back to the doctor. So this is kind of like 2.5, 3 years on from when she first saw it on her notes that she'd been diagnosed with PCOS. And the nurse that she saw said, I can't believe that your cysts have hardly grown in 3 years. She said, I've not seen anyone with this before. Now, it wasn't questioned. It wasn't anything like that. And she said, there's no, because the pain that she had, she thought that they'd been told by NHS 111 that cysts had probably ruptured and to go straight down to the doctors. And the nurse was like, no, they're nowhere near the size you would expect them to be after 3 years. Now, she didn't come to me regularly for the treatments, but actually she said, if I'd have come with you regularly, then, do you know what I mean? That would have been even better. My body would have healed itself, potentially, even more of any sort of symptoms or any sort of period pains. She started to get her periods back normally. So yeah, now it's a case of, right, okay, so let's start working together. And she's like, we need to start working together more regularly now.
Amazing. That's really cool. And would it also help somebody going through, say, something really awful like cancer?
Yes. Yeah. As long as the person is open, and as long as they are able to look at things from a different angle. Do you know what I mean? A lot of time when people get chronic illnesses and chronic ailments, unfortunately, they get pulled into this is what I've got, can't do anything about it anymore. You know, I've just got to deal with it. But actually, you can fight it, you can go against it. There is information, and there is examples where people have actually gone, right, this is not me. I am not this illness. And that's what people need to realize. They need to separate themselves from the illness, because they are not their illness. If people become their illness, then they don't get better. But actually, if you go, no, I'm not that illness, let's work on that and let's get that sorted and get it cleared. And it can help. It can help a lot.
I think it's really cool to do it alongside whatever treatment you're having, because
yes,
it can help support, as you said, support the body's own natural way of healing. So
yeah,
I feel like I need it. I'm having like frog in my throat today. And so the other thing I was wondering is how does the process work? So it sounds like it's a really useful thing for people to contemplate doing, but how, you said you do it online and remotely. So what physically happens? Like, does the person lay down, or how does it work?
So how I before lockdown, I was always face to face, and then we came into lockdown, and I was a bit like, oh, what do I do now? And a chronic healer that was treating me said, do it remotely. And I was a bit like, can I get this to work? Because I knew it worked, because actually it worked for me. So I was like, okay, so let's test this. And it was my confidence in myself, basically, at the end of the day. And I got past that, because once I started working with my friends and family and clients that I was working with face to face that were open to it, they were like, yeah, when can we start paying you? Because there's no difference. So what I basically say is I have a chat with someone, and I connect with them. I use kind of like lots of different skills in my ability. My intuition is really strong. And when I talk to people, I can see and hear what's going on for them, alongside what they actually say. So the treatment itself, they fill in the health questionnaire, and then they can either lay down on the bed, which is perfect, which is what I say I would love for all my clients to do. But coming out of lockdown, I found that people were sitting at their desks because they were working and they needed to get a deadline. And I was like, that's fine. As long as you're sat, then I will treat you. So then when people went on holiday, they would give me a call going, I know you've been treating my knee. I've had a tiny bit of a flare. I've done lots of walking. Can you just treat me? And I'm like, yeah, cool. Where are you? Oh, I'm sat on the beach. Okay. Let's do it. If you're going to go into the salt water, because I use salt water to disintegrate and clear energy, the energy that's stuck in the body. If you're going to go into the sea, do it now before I start the treatment. Don't do it after, because otherwise you basically can dissipate the energy that I'm working with to clear the body, clear the pain in the body. So I've treated people on airplanes going to and from holiday, buses, trains, sat in a car, a passenger in a car. As long as she's sat and relaxed. I treat my mum while she sits and does her jigsaw puzzle. Do you know what I mean? Because she's relaxed. That's her way of relaxing. So I then, this end, will do the treatment. I follow a protocol, step-by-step process to clear the different emotions out of the body if we're working in emotional, and the same with the physical. I work in different areas of the body, in the energy centers, that basically just hold any energy that isn't needed anymore. Then they're just relaxing. They don't need to do anything. They don't need to be doing anything. And then I will always send them, I always say to my clients, I will send you a text, because if you are laying down, sometimes, well, a lot of the times, especially when I'm working with stress and anxiety and clearing that, they tend to fall asleep. And I said, the last thing you want is being woken up by a ringing telephone. So I was like, when you respond to the text, I then check in with you to see how you're doing. And then we keep in contact. I'm very much of the mindset that actually, if I'm helping you clear stuff from your past that's being held in your body, once you start clearing things away, we're a bit like an onion. Take the layers away, other stuff comes to the surface. And you shouldn't be sitting with that. It needs to just be cleared so you can keep moving forward. So that's how I work, just to allow people to get back to what they were like before the emotion or the pain, the physical pain or the emotional pain, stopped them in their tracks, because it really can do.
So fascinating. So how many treatments would somebody need, and like how regularly do they have to have it?
Yeah, this is the kind of like how long's a bit of string question. I always go, it is really dependent on everyone. Through the 6 years I've been doing this, I've discovered that actually within 4 treatments, if you've been diagnosed with something, or if we're working with something, you know what it is, within 4 treatments, you will see a change. You will feel a change. A lot of people after the first session go, yeah, definitely. Treating a lady for stress and anxiety, and literally after the treatment, she says, I felt this pain go through my shoulders, down my spine, but it wasn't a horrible pain. She says, but now my shoulders feel really relaxed. So you can feel it after the very first treatment. It just depends on the person, and who they are, what is going on for the body, because we're all different.
Yeah, I suppose it's the same for us as well. It's, I might have somebody that I treat their menopause, and it literally within a few months they're like, oh my god, this is amazing, I'm great, I'm cured, and they go off and they're quite happy. And then you get other people that every few months you've got to change things because it hasn't quite landed properly. So
and this is it.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I guess the last thing to cover off then is, have you got any like little tips or tricks for sort of helping people to kind of stop this stuck energy in the first place?
It's about dealing with the emotion in the moment. Do you know what I mean? Which is really difficult when you're in a situation that is really uncomfortable, because we just kind of want to put it behind us and move on. As I kind of like say, the great British public is shove it into a suitcase, lock it up, and shove it to the back of the wardrobe and forget about it. And that's generally what people do, because they need to get on with their lives. They need to figure out what to feed the kids, or figure out where the money's coming from for the next bill, so they don't tend to deal with those emotions. And actually facing the emotion and dealing with the actual situation to genuinely clear it is really one of the only ways that you're going to actually be able to move forward and not have that hang on. But it's now known that actually when we're in our mother's womb, we start taking on the emotions of our mother before we're even born. So as we're born, we literally have already got a start of a build-up of emotions that have been transmitted almost, as it were, from our mum. Now, we're not going to know that. We can't avoid that unless we are literally living a totally zen life, organic food, no stress, no strain, no money issues, no nothing. It's really difficult. But actually, by trying different things, I know people say about meditation, or just giving yourself time to go out on your own, find your favorite place. I love the seaside. I absolutely love it. I go and sit on the beach whenever I can, just by the sea, or for a walk in the woods. I know it's a big thing about getting out in nature, but it's true. It is about just finding that space for you, just to breathe and just to release things. But actually, a lot of people need help to release those emotions. And the emotions are from when we were in our mother's womb. So we're not even going to know they're there until something happens to trigger it a bit in our childhood. I can't remember when I was 4 or 5 years old, but things were going on through my childhood that I didn't know how to get rid of or clear or deal with in that moment. So it's very much about get help. There is help out there, whatever people want to do, and this is why what I do is complementary, because it goes with anything. It goes with Western medicine, it goes with anything, or counselling, whatever is comfortable for you. It's about looking at those situations and dealing with them, not by having to keep going over them, not rehashing them, but actually being able to look at the situation and go, okay, it happened. It made me feel like this. I need to deal with this. I need to face this emotion and move forward from it. And that's really, I'm yet to find anyone who can, in the moment, clear and deal with everything that's gone on, because I'm 54. I've had a lot of things go on in my life over 54 years. I'm still working on myself. I'm still doing the treatments on myself to clear the past emotions that are creating my future that I want to change.
Yeah. And it's the same for children as well, isn't it? I remember when we first met and you were telling me that it's possible, you don't necessarily have to work on the children, but you're working on their trusted adult or their parent or whoever. And that's enough to sort of help them as well, which I thought was fascinating. It's amazing.
I've worked with a young girl who, actually I've worked with several young children, girls and boys, who have been really angry, really kind of like almost outwardly angry, violent towards the parents and the carers and things like this. And by doing the treatment, just to help them clear that anger and resentment or anger and emotion to whatever the situation was, has literally within 24 hours seen a change in their being, has actually calmed their system down. And then you can start clearing out the other emotions, which gives the child, it almost breaks that cycle. It breaks the cycle from child to adult, because that's what we're doing. We have hereditary emotions that pass through the generations of the family. So to actually break that connection for the children gives them a fresh start for their future without actually having to carry our emotions and their emotions increasingly through their own life.
So important. Seriously, that when you hear about something like this, you honestly feel like, why could this not just be something I could prescribe? Just this is going to have like an hour's course with Debbie, and she's going to sort you out alongside the, I don't know, the headache tablets I'm giving you, or something like that. Wouldn't that be an amazing world to live in?
It would. It truly would. You know, the NHS have got acupuncture, so they, do you know what I mean? They are kind of there. Do you know what I mean? Acupuncture works with energy. That's what the needles go into. It's the energy lines throughout the body. But to be able to move on and actually have this as part of the NHS would just be phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. It would help so many more people.
And this is where it comes down to, they call it evidence-based medicine. So I'm pretty certain that you're going to find it really hard to test real pranic healing with fake pranic healing to make sure that you've got your control group and you're not control group, and double blinded, whatever, you know, there are. This is the problem. It's being able to prove to the skeptics that these sorts of things work, and actually sometimes you just have to trust that it works without needing the evidence behind it. You know,
there is work going on out there now to show people who in Western medicine and doctors and things like that and consultants, there is work going on now to show that it actually works.
Cool, that's good.
So it's there and it's happening in the background. So fingers crossed that everything moves forward and it all becomes, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, a bit more mainstream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because I will work with, if I can help someone, I will work with someone. If they're open to it, I will talk to them about it and see what we can do to help them. Because that's why I do this. I do this because I don't want people to have to cancel things because they're emotionally in a bad place or physically in a bad place.
I
started this because of my family, to help my family. And that is what I genuinely love to hear and see, is the help that actually children are playing rather than tearing each other's hair out at the dinner table. And do you know what I mean? They're all getting on and the family is balanced and emotionally good. It's always good to work with the parents and the children at the same time.
Yeah, that's really, really helpful. I think people will find this really useful. So thank you so much for taking the time to tell us about it all.
No, my pleasure.
That's the website again. I promised I'd put it up at the end. So if you're interested in sort of finding out a bit more, then you do discovery calls, right? For people to just
I do discovery calls. Yeah, the links are all on the website, so we can just have a chat. So there's no cost in it. They can just have a chat and find out a bit more about it and see how I can help them.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll do something again at some point. It'll be amazing.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Cool. Well, thank you. And well, hopefully everybody found that useful. And again, take care. And hopefully I'll be seeing you again soon. We've got another episode coming up next week, but I probably won't, I'm not going to put too much out at the same time. But for now, this is going to be on replay. So if you're watching on replay, hi. Don't forget to ask us some questions. So here we go. Take care. Bye.
Bye.